Howdy, Eric here, Driveline, World's Okay Steering Wheel Holder, coming at you from an unplanned pit stop. I've been trying to get out of Florida, and it just won't let go of me, man. I survived the hurricane, and in my last video, the hurricane was coming, and I said I was going to do it live. Probably I did do it live. I took that down because it was like 7 hours long. Like, it was 7 hours long for maybe 20 minutes worth of interesting weather for where I was. So I'll talk about that here in a few minutes, but let me get to the now real quick, and then I'll get to the ride that I experienced going through Hurricane Milton. So in the now, Milton is still like, it's still holding on to the east coast of Florida, and I'm on the east coast of Florida. All the sort of storm, severe storms and all that's still gone, but there's still on the west part of the hurricane. It's still pushing wind into the east coast of Florida. And I'm in an I got an empty trailer. Like, I've made it almost out. I'm south of Jacksonville right now. South of Jacksonville by about 90 miles, and it was just too much. It was just it's too, my risk. People have higher tolerances of what they're willing to drive with an empty trailer. And it also depends on which direction the wind is coming. If it's hitting kind of at the side, not the front or the back, if the wind's kind of coming at me really at any angle but from the side at 30 miles per hour or higher, even just gusts, I kind of tap out. I know people have higher tolerances for what they're willing to drive in, but that's really kind of because if you're pushing it to 35 plus on the gust side, then there could be a gust that just one freak gust, and that's it. I've mentioned it before. I've got a friend, and a gust took him over in Illinois, and it's not something I'm willing to play with. So I'm gonna sit here where I'm at for maybe 45 minutes. It looks like 45 minutes would be good. That's gonna put me in Jacksonville at a real shit time in the morning, which I could have snuck through before everybody else starts getting out on the road, but I'm just not willing to risk it, man. I'd rather wait 45 minutes, be safe, get through, have to deal with a little bit of traffic, and then get on my way than to just try and risk it just to beat traffic. This week has been so much risk anyway. Like, it started going through my mind. It's like, okay, I got through the hurricane fine. I got that load delivered fine. Wouldn't it just be the worst if this risk at the end of it is what got me when I'm almost out of Florida? So I'm like, all right, now is the perfect time. I'll just pull over. I'll get caught up on YouTube, make a video for everybody, and give you guys an update, because I know I'm getting text from a few people who are saying, hey, what's going on? I saw there's some comments. What's going on? Did you make it? Yeah, I made it through the hurricane. So let's go back to that. Please note that I am not advising anyone to take the risk and go into a hurricane zone with a truck and trailer. That is not what this is. Okay? You got to make your own decisions. You're the captain of your ship. I'm the captain of this ship. So this is not advice. I'm not suggesting that you do what I did. I'm just saying I made a decision that was risky, but turned out to be a decision that I still stand by and that I would make again. And I want to go back, and the reason is I just got the biggest paycheck that I've had this year. So it was somewhat financially motivated. I'm going to admit and acknowledge that. If I didn't do it, I would have screwed 2 weeks over. Now, you shouldn't make a decision based solely on financial motivation. you shouldn't. And I didn't, but that certainly played a role. I assessed this when I was right up on the border of Georgia and Florida. I could have stayed there. I could have not taken this down here. It was very obvious to me that I would be delivering long before anything hit Florida, and that I would be able to stay south of what every model and what any app, any radar, any of that stuff was showing would be catastrophic for me being down in South Florida. So it wasn't just financially motivated. It was based on what, all the information and data that I had at hand. A lot of you, not a lot, but quite a few of you disagreed with that decision on X. Quite a few disagreed. Man, I had people telling me that I was done for and I should check my insurance and stuff like that. And it's like, okay. So, it was a decision that I stand by and that I would make again. And certainly some financial motivation went into it. And look, the financial side, taking that load into Florida got me, again, the biggest paycheck that I've had this year. If I didn't, then I'd probably just now be rolling into Florida, and I would probably screw over 2 weeks. So that played a role, but also everything was pointing to the fact that I would be safe. There was not going to be any catastrophic outcome for me. The only thing that would cause problems is me getting out of Florida in a timely fashion. And that's true. That is currently the case. So, my final thing on the getting out of Florida parts. So I pulled up, so first of all, he tried to send me a load earlier yesterday that was going from Miami to Winter Haven, Florida. And I'm like, absolutely not. I don't know, like, what could be. I'm already in a really bad position, in a bad spot, load-wise, weather-wise, all the above. Why in the hell would I go pick up and run a 220-mile run into a spot that's going to be worse in terms of getting freight out? If you guys know, Tropicana is like, you ain't getting no Tropicana load probably for the next few days, if not for the next week or more. Like, Bradenton, Florida is just jacked. Tropicana was already down to 70% operation because of Helene. And with Milton, like, so that's down. Who knows if there's going to be Pepsi loads going out. Like, that is not going to be a better freight opportunity for me. And the wind at the time that was proposed was still extreme across Central Florida. And that was going to be a very light load. So that was like, nah. I'm not trying to just move to a worse part of Florida. Like, I need to get out of Florida. So then last night I pull up Load Choice, and it's three of the same. It's little 200-mile hopper, get something out of Miami and take it to a part of Florida that is just going to be worse. Just going to be worse. Like, that is not. So I didn't even wait for Load Choice or anything. I told my fleet manager or night dispatcher, I'm like, hey bro, just so you know, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Like, I'm not really going home, but I'm out. Like, I'm not messing with this. Oh, and another thing, the loads on Load Choice, we're picking up on Saturday. Picking up on Saturday, delivering late at night, Saturday night, or early Sunday morning. Why would I sit there and wait for? So basically, so as it was, okay, but be aware, you may not get loaded until late Friday night or Saturday morning, even if you go up to Georgia. Okay, well, I hadn't showered in 2 days. I've been sitting here going through a hurricane. I'd rather go up to Georgia, be out of Florida, get a shower, and, hope for something better than this stuff they're throwing at me for Saturday, staying down in Florida. So it was like, no. And plus, I'd have to sit at that damn rest area on 75 for another 2 nights. So I was like, I'm taking my ball and I'm getting out. Like I'm not, I don't care if I got to eat the fuel. I don't care if I got to eat the miles. It's my truck. I'm going north. And that's what I did. What I didn't calculate for is the fact that, like I said, those outer sort of rain bands and stuff that are on the west side of Milton as it's moving out into the Atlantic are still scraping Florida. They weren't at the time that I left. So it looked pretty damn clear at the time that I left South Florida. But by the time I got up here, I'm near, what is it, Daytona Beach? I'm not really sure exactly where I'm at. I'm not at anywhere. I'll just put it that way. As soon as I got up to where you cut across to go to Orlando, shit started going sideways. It's not raining right now, but it started raining really hard. And I felt stuff happening, pulled over. I needed like 25 gallons of fuel to really make myself comfortable. I could have easily made it up to Georgia to get fuel. But I just, I was like, I'll just stop, get 25 gallons of fuel just for the hell of it, just to keep my tank up where I'm comfortable when there's so many unknowns weather-wise. And when I pulled over, when I got fuel, the wind just started howling, man. Like when I was at Love's, the wind really kicked up. And then at the same time, while I was sitting there at the Love's, my Garmin gave me a wind warning. So, I open up the wind apps, and sure enough, it's a notch above my comfort zone. Now, on the wind apps, it showed maximum gust of 30. So I was like, okay, maximum gust of 30. It's kind of hitting me from the northeast, and I'm going straight north. I'll give it a try. And I got on the road and I did probably 20 miles, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. There were a couple gusts that were, it's dark. I can't see what my trailer's doing. I know what I feel happening with the steering wheel. I know what I feel happening with what I'm hearing on the windows. It's pushing it too much. You know what I mean? So, and it's supposed to be dramatically decreasing, like as I'm speaking to my phone. So, and in fact, it shows that by 5 a.m., it's basically non-existent. Well, it's currently 0330. So, I'm just gonna wait. I'm just gonna give it 30 or 45 minutes, check again, and just let that band that's still, those claws that are still hitting, scraping at Florida, do their thing, and then I'll move on. So my escape out of Florida is underway. It's going to be empty and unloaded, and it is what it is. Now let me get back to the hurricane itself. So it turns out, now if those of you who were watching the live, turns out you'll recall that really hairy few minutes that I went through. I think that few minutes in the live was the most uncomfortable I was the whole night. There was another moment long after I was live, after midnight, that got very uncomfortable for a good 10 or 15 minutes. But the most uncomfortable was when I got missed by a tornado. Turns out, just so you guys know, I got missed by that tornado probably by half a mile. There was the first outer band started to move through. The very first outer band started to move through. Now, I was on 75 in the Everglades, which, by the way, I got ate up by mosquitoes. We're talking some Jurassic Park shit. Those mosquitoes were no joke, man. I have like 30 mosquito bites, and they're not the mosquito bites that you can just ignore. Like, I'm feeling it from head to toe, man. Like Jurassic Park shit, welts. Holy. So anyway, I digress. But I was on 75 out there at the Everglades. You know that really nice rest area on the toll plaza? It's probably like 40 miles, I want to say 40, 50 miles east of Miami. And that's where I wrote it out. It was like, I did all my research before I got down there. That was the place where I could have the back end of my trailer facing where the vast majority of the wind would be coming from. So I got there, I got situated. My truck is facing northeast. I slid the tandems all the way to the back. I dropped the trailer, it was empty, and got out in front of it, and that's where I wrote it out, and that's how I wrote out the hurricane. It was true that for up until about 1 a.m., all the wind was just hitting the trailer dead on from the back. So I was rocking pretty good for most of the day, but it wasn't an extreme concern. But when the tornadoes started popping off and they were starting south of 75 and crossing 75, I was live. And while I was live, my watch, my phone, everything starts giving me tornado warnings. And so I open up radar while I'm live, and there's a tornado. It's got the red box behind me, moving northeast. I'm facing northeast. And we watched that front go right to my right. And I was like, dude, that looks dodgy. It started raining really hard. The wind really picked up. And then when it got north of 75, everything's going off. It produced a big tornado. I mean, it picked up like it was a tornado behind me. It picked up as it was crossing 75, and then it dropped down way, way bigger. So those of you who are watching the live, that thing we watched cross was producing a massive tornado, and it crossed a half a mile from me. That was sketchy. It was so sketchy. My camera was facing forward, so nobody saw it, but I was in here. I had my go bag next to me. I was buckling my seatbelt, man. I was like, I was tripping out a little bit for that few minutes. I was definitely tripping out. I was not comfortable with what was happening at all. And I appreciated that I had a lot of you on the live stream that I could just talk it out, because if I didn't have that, I'd just be sitting here with myself and my own thoughts, just like, okay, how's this going to go down? At least being live kind of helped keep me distracted and talking about things, because man, I was freaking out. So there was that moment, and then after midnight, the wind turned and it was hitting me, straight, because it was going straight west to east, and I was pointing northeast. When those really heavy tropical storm force winds, I mean, we were getting gusts probably 55, 60, even down there. That was really hairy. The worst of it was probably maybe 20 minutes, but it was pretty bad. Like, it was pretty bad. Like, I was in bed, and I got up and got dressed and put my shoes on, because I was like, dude, this don't feel right, man. It did not feel right, but made it through. Not to suggest that what I went through was anywhere remotely close to what everybody that was underneath Milton as it went through. I was way down south, but I'm just telling you, there were some sketchy moments. But at the end of the day, it wasn't anything that was like, life risking or anything for me where I was. So that was pretty much my experience with it. I know I wasn't right under the hurricane. That was my second hurricane to experience. I went through Hurricane Sandy, when I lived in Virginia Beach, long time ago. And that was like, that was way sketchier, but also I was in a tall old apartment building on 35th and Atlantic in Virginia Beach that we lost power, and the basement flooded to that building and everything, but it wasn't like, it wasn't in a semi truck, you know what I mean, with an empty trailer. Granted, I wasn't attached to it, but I would definitely not recommend it. Now, I'll remind everybody that I accepted that proposed load before we really knew anything about Milton. I think it was before it was even like organizing at all. So there was no nobody knew it was going to go across Florida like that. Nobody really knew much of anything when I accepted the load. Once I had accepted it, I had to commit or not, or, you know, I had to pick it up and then make a determination on what to do. I made that determination when I did my 10-hour break up there on the Georgia and Florida border. I could have stayed there, but I would have had to stay there probably for 4 or 5 days. Now, if this thing was going to cross before I could get to Miami, I wouldn't have done it. I definitely would have parked, but I could get to Miami well before it, you know, started affecting Florida the way that it did. So that's why I made the decision I did. So anyway, all is well. Just wanted to give you guys an update and let you know how it all went down. Appreciate everybody joining me on a live. That really did help kind of keep some sanity. It also helped, and that was a part of my decision making, that there was fire and rescue there, and like they actually have a really nice facility for fire and rescue. Highway patrol is there. They use that rest area to stage a lot of emergency management services. There was like convoys of ambulances and stuff and all that there. So it was actually a really good place to be if you're going to be in South Florida when something's going across Central Florida like that. So if you're in the situation, it was very optimal. And that was a part of my trip plan when I decided to do it, and it ended up working out well. So, all right, guys. Be safe, make good decisions. As always, drive to thrive. Talk to y'all soon.